Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to season 2 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, 2-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. I am so excited about today's guest, Cory Ruth. She is a registered dietitian nutritionist and women's health expert. Cory is the founder and principal of The Women's Dietitian and Instagram account at The Women's Dietitian, a private practice and digital platform for women seeking nutrition support for hormone balance, fertility, digestion, and weight management. She specializes in conditions such as PCOS, endometriosis, Hashimoto's, and nutrition therapy for infertility and assisted reproductive technology. Cory dedicates her practice to a science-backed eating and lifestyle method she created called cycle hacking. It is through this program that she customizes nutrition prescriptions for her clients phase by phase of their cycle to optimize hormone balance and to encourage healthy hormone levels. Let's welcome Cory to the show. Hey, Cory, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I am super excited to be here today.
Yeah, me too. I've got so many questions for you. I can't wait to dive in.
Okay,
So tell me a little bit more about you. Kind of how'd you get here and how'd you start working with nutrition?
Yeah, so I became a dietitian a few years ago. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I kind of fell in love with nutrition and fitness and kind of got more into that. And then I went back to school to get my master's, and then I became a dietitian after that. So yeah, and then I've worked at all different kinds of dietitian jobs. I mean, really all different kinds. And I decided that I wanted to go into private practice, and I've always been a really big endocrinology nerd. We didn't get a whole lot in school. So
Nope.
I ended up working at a women's clinic, and I absolutely fell in love with my work there. And I learned a ton from some of the OBGYNs there and some of the nurses. So I just kind of took all of that, and I opened up my doors to my private practice a couple years ago, and it's just taken off, and I'm super blessed, and I absolutely love what I do. I get to help women with hormone imbalance, digestion, fertility. PCOS is kind of my specialty. I absolutely love it.
I love that. And that's exactly me. You know, I opened my private practice about 5 years ago, and it's just, there's nothing like private practice. I mean, it is just so rewarding. So I love that you're doing that.
Yes.
And tell me, did you have your own story with PCOS, or what made you kind of focus there?
Yeah, so I have PCOS.
Okay.
So I wasn't formally diagnosed until my 20s,
Wow.
but late 20s, actually, my symptoms just like started raging, and I was like, okay, I really think that this is what's going on, but yeah, it's kind of been, up and down my whole life. It was since puberty. So, so that's what really kind of got me into PCOS and wanting to help other women and understanding the connection between diet and this condition, because they're so intricately connected, and really making dietary changes can go so far. And I think, a lot of women with PCOS, most of us, when we go to the doctor, they will just prescribe birth control, and it doesn't go past that. So, really diving deeper into lifestyle changes, and that includes nutrition, can absolutely help manage this condition, kind of more holistically. So
for sure. Oh, I love that.
I've come a long way.
Yes. Yes. And I love that you say that too, because that was what I found with my experience. We went through infertility, and the doctors, they just wanted to throw medicine at me, throw procedures, like, because of your age, you need to do this.
Right.
They never talked to me about diet or lifestyle. And it's a huge role. It's so important. So I'm so glad we're talking about this.
Me too. It really is. Yes. And a lot of, PCOS is also the most common cause of infertility. So there's a lot of work to be done around that too. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes.
Yes, for sure. And so I noticed too, you talk a lot about cycle syncing. I think you call it cycle hacking.
I do.
You talk about that a lot on this show. I love cycle syncing. I think it's such a wonderful, holistic way to kind of balance your hormones out. And so talk to us a little bit more about that. How are you using that in your practice?
Yeah. So basically, our cycle is divided into 4 different phases. We've got our menstrual phase, where we're actively bleeding. We've got our follicular phase, our ovulation phase, which is really short. And then we've got our luteal phase. So there are specific nutrients that can be helpful in each one of those phases. I kind of lump the follicular and the ovulation phase together, just because they're very similar.
It's so short.
Yeah, exactly. But there are nutrients that you can kind of focus on and prioritize throughout each phase in order to optimize your hormone balance and your hormone levels. So that was really eye-opening to me when I first started out, and I was just fascinated with the concept, and I dug into all the research, scoured through all these different publications, and I put together a guide for patients in my practice in order to kind of navigate what to eat throughout their cycle. So if I don't go through it with every patient. It depends on what they want to do, but if they're interested in that, then it can absolutely be a great tool when it comes to things like optimizing fertility.
I love that. And I also put together a guide. That's so cool that you say that. I would love to see yours to see how we kind of match up. But tell me just a few foods that you recommend for each phase of the cycle.
Sure. So menstrual phase, I really like to focus on iron-rich foods. I mean, if you think about when you're actively losing blood, a lot of women complain about energy levels as we kind of get into that menstrual phase. So replenishing some of that iron that you lose as you're bleeding can be super helpful to restore energy levels. So best sources of iron, red meat, seafood's a good source. Plant-based sources, unfortunately, are not as they're not as bioavailable for us, but they can still be helpful. So things like beans, lentils, spinach, those are great foods. I also focus on omega-3 fatty acids, because this is really when some of those prostaglandins are firing, and those are lipid compounds that are responsible for period cramps and breast tenderness. So lots of fatty fish, salmon, tuna, herring, trout, mackerel. Those are really great foods. As you coast into that follicular phase and ovulation, I'll again lump them together. We really want to focus on developing our follicles so that we ovulate. Ovulation is really important, whether or not fertility is on our minds, because that's really when we ovulate. After that, it's the only time in our cycle that we're producing ample amounts of progesterone. And progesterone is really helping to balance out estrogen in the body. And we don't want to have too much estrogen going on in that second half of our cycle or throughout our cycle. So I like to focus on vitamins A and D, as well as zinc and selenium. So lots of green leafy vegetables. Egg yolks are great. So eggs. You could do lots of pumpkin seeds, cashews. These are all really good foods, and seafood and beans can be really helpful here. So it's kind of, if you're my sort of suggestion as far as red meats and things like that, I have a lot of clients who are like, well, I don't really eat red meat. I don't eat it a lot.
Right.
If you're going to eat red meat, eat it during your period. And then kind of coast into more plant-based eating during the follicular phase, and then you could do some seafood too. That's always helpful. So as you go into the luteal phase, I really like to focus on optimizing progesterone levels, and vitamin B6 is one of the best things to do that. So pork, poultry, potatoes, peas, those are all really great sources of vitamin B. And then we also want to eat lots of cruciferous vegetables during this time. We really want to encourage that progesterone to estrogen balance, and that's really helping to support the liver and estrogen detoxification. So those are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, bok choy, all that good stuff. And then I also like to really focus on probiotic rich foods here, because when we're in the luteal phase and as we kind of get closer to our period, that's when we tend to feel the most digestive discomfort. So yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha. I get asked about kombucha a lot. I try to recommend pick the lower sugar kinds. There's all kinds of kombucha drinks out there. So just because it's kombucha, doesn't mean it's a free pass. Take a look at the back and see what the grams of added sugar looks like.
Yeah. And I always say, don't drink the whole bottle, just drink a little bit. Because
right.
You don't need the whole bottle.
Right. Exactly. True. Yeah. A little bit every day.
Right. Exactly. Right. And the same with the red meat. I always tell people you don't have to eat like a 10-ounce ribeye. You can have 3 to 4 ounce piece of red meat and be good. So
yeah, eat the whole cow. No.
Right. No.
That's true. Yes, absolutely agree.
So talk to me a little bit more about PCOS, and what do you think the connection there is with fertility?
So polycystic ovary syndrome is very complex. It really looks different on every woman. So my PCOS looks different than the woman in the same room next to me with PCOS, whose PCOS looks different than the woman next to her. So there's a lot of different driving factors. And what we do know is that the majority of us have some kind of insulin issues. So blood sugar control is really paramount. And so with PCOS, the number one issue when it comes to fertility is anovulation, or irregular ovulation. So if you think about a woman without PCOS who ovulates every month, she has potentially 12 chances of getting pregnant if she's having unprotected intercourse. I mean, hypothetically speaking. So a woman with PCOS who's only getting her period twice a year, 3 times a year, that means she's likely only ovulating 2 to 3 times a year. So doing math, you can realize, how many less chances of conception that she has. So it might take her much longer to get pregnant if she's even ovulating at all. Wow. So that's kind of the number one concern. There are some research studies about PCOS and egg quality. Not a whole lot of concrete evidence there that I've seen, at least. I won't say it's not there, but and then there is a slightly higher risk for miscarriage as well with PCOS. And there's also higher risk of all kinds of conditions during pregnancy, gestational diabetes, preeclampsia. So there's a big fertility component there. And I do a lot of work around that. And then with PCOS too, we tend to see women are kind of in this chronic state of low-grade inflammation, which can be inhibitory when we're talking about conception and fertility and implantation, as well as they tend to have higher levels of cortisol. And cortisol is our stress hormone, which we all know the impact of stress and fertility, not so great. So there's all kinds of reasons why PCOS, there's this connection between PCOS and infertility. It is not impossible, though. I think a lot of us are discouraged, when we go to the doctors tell us, you have PCOS, you're not ovulating, you're going to need fertility treatments to get pregnant. Or a lot of us are told that. And that's simply not true. Of course, there is a time and a place for fertility treatments. Absolutely 100% agree with that. Could not agree more. But to rush straight to that, I think is doing women with PCOS a disservice, because then we're not addressing any of the reasons why PCOS is manifesting for us in the first place and how it's showing up for us symptom wise. So it's really important to kind of start with the basics and start at square one before you feel like you're obligated to jump into fertility treatments which can be really cost prohibitive. So yeah, my goal as a PCOS and fertility dietitian is to offer these alternatives for women to try before or during their fertility treatments. And when I say before, I mean the prices that I'm charging as a dietitian don't even come close to what you're going to pay for fertility treatment. So I always encourage women to start here. And if women are going through fertility treatments, I get asked a lot, is your program or your services still going to benefit me? Absolutely. There's so much we can do to support our health and our PCOS, even as it's actually much better as we're moving through these fertility treatments, and also taking care of kind of the dietary and lifestyle and movement and stress, some of those facets of life as well, and kind of how to better manage this condition.
And I love that you say that too, because I find a lot of people will comment to me with PCOS and say, my doctor told me that this is, pretty much a death sentence. Like, I'm not going to be able to get pregnant. I need to jump right into IVF. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're 30 years old. Like, you don't have to jump right into IVF. Like, let's try to holistically heal your body first. And exactly what you're saying is figure out what's causing this PCOS and how it's kind of manifesting itself. So I love that you say that. So very important.
Totally.
Yes. And there are holistic things that you can do that might help you not have to go down the IVF road. But if you do, you're going to be in the best optimal condition for that IVF to work better.
Exactly. And also, we do know that diet has a connection with our egg quality. So if you're making some of these changes, whether or not you actually get pregnant in 3 months, guess what? Your eggs are going to be in much better shape than they were before. And so if you want to go down the IVF route, you're going to have a better chance of conception. So it's always a good thing. You're never going to lose out on anything by working on other parts of your health.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit more about food. I know we talked about cycle syncing food.
Favorite subject.
Yes. Do you have like 2 or 3, like these foods are best to help boost your fertility naturally? These foods are best if you have PCOS. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different.
Yeah. So this is a very common question I get asked as an RD dietitian. There's no one magic superfood. If there was, I think you and I would both be out of business.
Right.
But there are patterns of eating that can be helpful when it comes to fertility. So some of my kind of favorite superstars that come to mind are salmon. Salmon is such a great source of protein, which is great for stabilizing our blood sugar, important for fertility, whether or not you have PCOS. Lots of omega-3 fatty acids that are anti-inflammatories, all kinds of vitamins and minerals. And if you're not a big fish person, I always like to recommend omega-3 fatty acid supplements because those can kind of help fill in the gaps there. I'm a big proponent of fiber. I've been loving chia seeds lately because you get 5 grams of fiber in 1 little tablespoon, and that's such a dietitian thing for me to say.
Right? I agree.
Are amazing. I'm not going to say kale next. No, I might.
Right.
So, chia seeds are great as far as boosting up your fiber intake. And we all know that fiber is helpful for digestion, right? We all know that. But fiber is actually really important for estrogen detoxification. We actually excrete estrogen out through our stool. So fiber is super, super important for that, as well as blood sugar balance, which again, important for fertility as we're kind of talking about connection between blood sugar and hormones and PCOS. So that's a great one. What else? I love those cruciferous vegetables that we talked about when we were talking about cycle hacking in the luteal phase: broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage. I'm a big proponent of protein and fiber. Protein and fiber at every meal and snack. That's kind of what some of my guidelines are as far as fertility goes. So making sure you're not doing just carby meals. I'm not saying carbs are bad at all, but really trying to make sure you're getting in a lot of protein, because it's so much easier. The way that our food system is set up, at least here in the US, it's so easy to overdo carbs and do much more than our body actually requires. It's just the way our processed foods, our restaurants are set up. If you go to a restaurant, you're going to get a big carb serving, whether it's rice or potatoes or French fries or bread. But you're not going to get vegetables. Vegetables are like a garnish, like a topping. So they're the afterthought. They're just thrown on there. Like I love when I get the parsley on my plate. I'm like, what even is this? I know it's there for aesthetics, but you know what I mean? There's actually a lot of good nutrients in parsley, though. I'm not hating on parsley, but so I think protein and fiber in general. Love salmon, cruciferous vegetables, chia. I love Greek yogurt. There's a lot of controversy about gluten and dairy out there. as far as PCOS goes, there are no research studies indicating that that gluten and dairy are contraindicated for PCOS. So if you want to try and take them out of your diet and see how you do, test it out by all means. But we don't have research saying you absolutely need to go gluten and dairy free. So I love Greek yogurt. I usually like to stick around 2% fat, but plain unsweetened Greek yogurt, great source of protein, not fiber. Great source of protein, nice source of calcium, obviously, which is definitely needed as we kind of get into that preconception and conception period. So love that for a breakfast or a snack. I usually put chia seeds and cinnamon in there. I could go on and on, but hopefully that gives you a couple ideas.
Sure. Yes. And I love that you say that about gluten and dairy. And my stance on that is if it's clean, if you're eating like organic Greek yogurt with chia on top, perfect. If you're eating like store-bought processed milk and you're drinking it by the gallon, maybe not so perfect.
Everything's moderation, right? I'm not saying eat Greek yogurt at every meal and snack, but yes.
But the point I'm making is that just clean ingredients, clean whole foods is perfect.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Whole food sources. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Totally agree.
Do you have any favorite chia seed recipes? Because I know I'll recommend that food and people are like, how do you even eat those?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So actually I'll sprinkle chia seeds over my yogurt because that will give some fiber to the protein. Chia pudding is great. If you haven't tried a chia pudding, you can come up with all different kinds of combinations. And I like to make mine. I'll do soy milk. I'll do, dairy milk, or I love Ripple Foods pea protein milk, which is a plant-based milk, and that's high in protein. So that way, because a lot of times when people do a chia pudding, there's no protein really in there. There's not much. So I like to add a protein-rich milk instead of like an almond milk, and oat milk. Those don't actually have a lot of protein in them. So that's a suggestion. You could also stir in protein powder if you wanted to kind of amp up the protein there. But there's all kinds of things you can do with chia in a chia pudding. You can also use chia as an egg replacer, which is fascinating. But if you mix chia seed with water, or typically with water, it'll absorb about 9 times the liquid. It'll absorb the liquid and become about 9 times the size and kind of become voluminous and gooey. And you can use that in baking recipes. So if you're allergic to eggs, or, for whatever reason, you don't have an egg on hand, you can use chia in baking recipes and you're going to get that same egg texture, and it's going to come out great, and you're going to have more fiber. So that's a great way to use chia seeds as well, which a lot of people don't know about.
Awesome. I love that. Yes. Chia seed pudding is probably one of my favorites. I love to say that. It's so good.
It's so good. And you can make it any combo, and, make it if you want to. Yeah.
Yep. I was doing a pumpkin one for over the holidays, and I was like, how can I get in pumpkin? And so I would make like a pumpkin chia seed pudding. Oh my God. So delicious.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. That sounds so good. Now I want pumpkin.
Right? I love it. So now we're just going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Welcome back, Cory. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Yeah. Hello again.
Hello. So let's dive in a little bit with supplements. I know we've talked a lot about food in the first half, and I don't know about your thoughts. I'm sure they're similar to mine, but I always start with food first, and then I supplement the holes with good quality supplements. So what are some of your favorites that you recommend for infertility, for PCOS, for just health in general?
Yeah. So for infertility, I really like CoQ10. CoQ10 is one of our best suggestions when it comes to egg quality and egg health. So anybody who's prepping for a retrieval, something like that, I definitely recommend starting a CoQ10. Also really helpful for sperm production too. We don't want to leave the men out because that's the other side, right? The other piece of the puzzle takes two. So CoQ10 is great. Omega-3 fatty acids, I typically recommend those just because not all of us are getting the, four servings of fatty fish per week. I mean, and a lot of us don't even have access to I live in a rural area and the seafood options are kind of
right.
But when I get a chance, I'll order from outside my town. But an omega-3 to fill in the gaps there is super important, and especially if you're not a seafood person, because you can get omega-3s from plant-based sources. You can get them from flaxseed, walnuts. However, that form of omega-3 is ALA, and that's actually converted into EPA and DHA, but the conversion rate is less than 10%.
Wow.
So we're actually not getting much omega-3 from that. And EPA and DHA is what we're really looking for, and that's in that fatty fish. So I really recommend an omega-3 supplement. I try to recommend 500 milligrams of EPA and DHA for that.
Okay.
Vitamin C is great, really important for ovulation and progesterone production. So I always recommend, and of course, our immune systems, right?
Right.
So I recommend that. Vitamin D, super important for fertility, especially as we get into these winter months and we're not getting a lot of sun, or any sun in my case.
Right.
Right now. So vitamin D is super important. High quality prenatal. I try to recommend a prenatal with folate instead of folic acid. Not all of us can absorb and utilize the synthetic form of folate, which is folic acid. And that's really important preconception to prevent neural tube defects early in pregnancy. So I do recommend a nice prenatal, a couple brands I like, Douglas Lab. Can I say brands?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Douglas Lab too.
So you can ask that. So Douglas Laboratories and Pink Stork is probably two of my favorites. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Magnesium is a wonderful supplement. It's really great for mood, digestion, sleep, and those are all, everything's connected. So I like to recommend magnesium if anybody's dealing with any of those issues as we're kind of getting into that TTC phase. Gosh, what else? Those are probably my top. And then for PCOS, I really like inositol. And there's a brand that I like, Ovasitol, and that has a combination of what's called D-Chiro. And the ratio is basically 40-1 between these two different inositols. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but that ratio is really important. And the most research has found the most helpful as far as that inositol goes. And that's really great for blood sugar stabilization, for helping ovulation. And it's also a good one for egg quality. So if you are working on that, you can still take Ovasitol even if you don't have PCOS.
I love it. Yes. Those are all wonderful supplements. I love that.
Yeah. And if you've got higher levels of androgens, if you've got PCOS and you've got these elevated androgens, it's a great idea to take an anti-androgen, an androgen blocker. And that could be zinc, saw palmetto, nettles. There's all kinds of stuff. Douglas Labs makes a good one called Testo Quench for women. It's kind of a funny name, but I really like that one. But if you have PCOS, it's important not to just take all of these recommendations blindly. It's important to test your levels, because if you don't have elevated androgens, not all of us do. I don't. If you don't have those elevated levels, it's going to do nothing for you. So I won't say nothing, but it's not going to be helpful. You're going to be wasting your money. So it's important to test your hormone levels before you even go into, okay, what do I supplement with? And of course, check with your doctor or your healthcare provider. Yeah.
Always check with your doctor first. Yep. Yes. I love that you say that. But a lot of what you're recommending is perfect. I mean, I agree with all of that. So thank you for that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Totally. Supplements are great.
Yes. Let's get in a little bit with male fertility. They're a third of the equation, like we talked about earlier. So talk to me a little bit about, kind of, is there any certain foods that will benefit a male and his sperm and his fertility?
Yes. I'm going to go back to fatty fish again. I'm so sorry, but honestly, great source of omega-3s, really important for sperm production. And when we're talking about sperm health, we're talking about concentration or volume, motility and morphology. So these are all important as far as, great. If he has a lot of swimmers. What if they're swimming in the wrong direction?
Right.
So, there's all, or what if he's got high sperm volume? Great concentration, wonderful. But if they all are, misshapen with 2 heads or 3 tails, then, that's not going to be helpful either. So we do want to focus on quality. So zinc is probably number one. They're best source of zinc, oysters. So if you're an oyster fan, that's great. Get some more of that in. Red meat's a good source of zinc as well. Pumpkin seeds is a good source. So that's a good one. I would say, let's see, CoQ10, again, really important. CoQ10 is, it's not present in large quantities in a bunch of food. So that's actually one that I do recommend supplementing with, just because it's hard to kind of get that dose in food alone. So taking a CoQ10 supplement, and that goes for women too, that can be really, really helpful as far as getting that in. Yeah. And then, lifestyle wise, alcohol, smoking, those are all, we try to limit alcohol consumption, smoking, completely eliminate. And then when we're talking about temperature, sperm is only made at a specific temperature. So if you're going to a sauna or sitting in a hot tub, typically we like to see no more than 15 minutes at a time, twice a week. But if you're doing that frequently, I would probably recommend cutting back on that too.
Yes. So very important. I heard a funny story once about a race car driver would put peas down his pants to keep them cool down there, because I guess the race car gets super hot. So.
Yes, I've heard that too. Oh my gosh.
So funny.
Yep. But what a great guy, working on a facility, driving race cars. That's amazing. I want to meet him.
Right. For me too.
Yeah, totally.
So what would you say to somebody who feels super overwhelmed with all of this diet and lifestyle information? Is there one place where you're like, okay, just start here? What would be your advice there?
Okay. So there, I would say, if you can, and obviously cost is a big factor. If you can find somebody to work with and help guide you, that is going to be a much better investment time-wise, and money-wise, wherever else that money might be going. But, then spending hours on Dr. Google, getting stressed out, overwhelmed, frustrated, throw in the towel, I don't care. It's such a great investment in your health. And so if you can find somebody, and there are lots of practitioners who work with sliding scales, who will take insurance, I take HSA and FSA. I can call the store bill. Yeah, a medical receipt you can submit for reimbursement. There's all kinds of options out there for you if you're like, ooh, I don't think I can afford that. And there are tons of practitioners who, charge different prices. They don't all charge, what we might be charging. So note that there are options. So when I say that my number one recommendation is to work with someone, I don't mean to come off like, oh, you have, it's going to be this $1 million. It doesn't have to be like that. So, but that is my number one recommendation, because that person is an expert and they will help sift through all of the BS that's out there. There's a lot of that out there, as you know. So they'll help you sift through all of that, and they will distill that down and create an actionable plan for you that is going to be customized depending on your needs, right? Because with infertility and also with PCOS too, there's all different kinds of, issues coming into play, your background, your height, your weight, your age, your everything. So it's important to find somebody who can take all that into account, and really create a plan for you in terms of how to optimize your fertility and conceive successfully. So that's my number one recommendation. Kind of underneath that, there's tons of programs online. There's courses that are much cheaper than one-on-one work. You can absolutely find some of those. I have my Get Pregnant with PCOS program that launches several times a year. And I'm actually kind of in the works of starting a membership program for fertility and PCOS and weight loss. So there's all kinds of those, and those are much more, kind of wallet friendly than working with me one-on-one, and still can give you a lot of great expert advice. So there's that. You can do, there's all kinds of, and also one of my recommendations too is trying to kind of create this team if you can. It's not just about diet and nutrition. It's not just about your physician, your acupuncturist. Think of us as a team, and we are your people in your kind of in your corner trying to help you conceive, you and your partner. So try to put together a team if you can, because fertility has all these different components. So if you are working with a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, try to really line up all of your people that are going to be in your corner that are going to help you to conceive. And that's probably my top recommendation.
I love that. And I always talk about get your team together. I love that you say that, because we all play an intricate role in your specific journey. And we're also there for accountability, for support, holding your hand. It's very important. And I love that you say that about there's so many different practitioners that offer different programs, different prices. There's something for pretty much everyone. So just start looking and you'll find something for sure.
Definitely. There's another great resource. I sit on their medical advisory board. It's called Co-Fertility. I don't know if you follow Co-Fertility.
I think I do.
Yeah. Okay. You probably do. They are amazing, and they have a website, and their slogan is every fertility question you've ever wondered answered.
Okay.
So they are an amazing database. They have all kinds of information for all kinds of issues when it comes to fertility. And I really recommend checking them out as a credible source, because all of their guidance is backed by a team of, myself, physicians. So it's a great resource. So it's Co-Fertility, one word.
Gotcha. I love that. And we'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Cool. Yeah, it's helpful. Very helpful. Yes.
Awesome. Well, talk to us a little bit more about meal timing. I know it's so important what we eat, but timing of our food is also important, especially if you have PCOS, because, you're constantly releasing insulin every time you eat something. So talk to us a little bit more about that, kind of your stance on what meal timing should look like.
Yeah. So my stance, and this is me personally as a healthcare provider, I'm not a big fan of intermittent fasting. Of course, there's fasting for religious reasons, but these aren't going on and on and on for years. So intermittent fasting, blood sugar balance is really important for fertility, and for PCOS especially. So trying to eat regular meals and snacks is really important to keep blood sugar levels stable. If you go really long periods of time without eating and then eat a really big meal, when clients come to me and they don't eat and don't eat and don't eat, and then they just eat dinner. If you look at their blood sugar levels, they're nutso. And we want to keep kind of things, that we like that equilibrium. We like that steady Eddie line. So we don't want these big peaks and valleys. So trying to eat within, I like about, my recommendation is eating, when you wake up, eating within the hour, 30 minutes to an hour and a half. Not ideal, but I'd rather have you do that than skip breakfast. So breakfast, really important to start off your day with some protein and fiber, kind of get your blood sugar off on the right foot. And then lunchtime, a few hours after that, dinner, a few hours after that. But what I really hate to hear as a dietitian is that don't eat after 7 p.m. rule, or the don't eat after 8 p.m. rule. That's simply not true. Your body's going to keep digesting food all day and all night. It doesn't just have a magical button where it says, we're lazy. We're not It's going to keep digesting your food. So as long as you're getting in those regular meals and snacks, and your meals are whole foods, like we talked about, and you're not eating, a dumpster fire of a diet, you can eat at 8 p.m. If you have a dinner, you're like, oh, I couldn't get to dinner till 9 p.m. That's okay. So as far as, I hope that answers your question, answers your question, but I'm a big proponent of snacking, smaller meals and then some snacks rather than 3 giant meals. And that's what I found in my practice to be most effective when it comes to fertility, whether or not PCOS is something that you have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your programs. I know you have a lot of wonderful programs. So let's talk a little bit more about that. And then after that, where people can find you.
Totally. Yeah. So I work one-on-one with women. I only work with women, and we work on, like I talked about, fertility, digestion, PCOS, hormone balance. So I do have a program called Get Pregnant with PCOS, and it's basically a 6-week, I say 6 weeks, but I leave it open for 3 months, and women can basically go through each module and learn how to optimize their fertility. We've had so many babies through this program. I'm really proud of it. it. And so I release it a few times a year, just depending on what works for my schedule. But I am, like I mentioned, it's in its very infantile stages, but working on a membership program for women with PCOS. So I'm going to have, what I think is going to happen is I'll have a program for women who are trying to conceive with PCOS, and then a program for weight loss and PCOS, and then I'll have a combo. So women that want to work on both. So that will be kind of, I'll kind of leak more details on that later. I don't have much to say on that one yet, but it's going to be great because it'll be open, that membership program will be open all year long. So women don't have to wait, because the spots for that Get Pregnant PCOS program, they sold out in 2 hours.
Wow.
And I sold over 100 and I forget, but it nuts. So I want to offer more access, and working one-on-one. I have an 81 page wait list right now with about 6 people on each page. So I just don't have the bandwidth right now to be able to work with so many women one-on-one. So I want to kind of open more access for these women. So those are kind of what I offer, and you can find me at the Women's Dietitian. So that's my Instagram name. That's my name for everything. So TikTok, The Women's Dietitian. My website is www.thewomensdietitian.com. So you can find me anywhere there. And I would love to meet all of your followers and to answer any of their hormone balance, fertility, or PCOS questions.
I love that. Definitely go follow you. We'll put all that again in the show notes. I love it.
Good.
So any final thoughts before we close out here?
Gosh, I think we covered a lot of good stuff. This was really great. I love talking about these subjects, and I hope that what we talked about today was helpful and it reaches as many women and men as possible, so they can kind of learn more about these subjects.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Cory. It's been so fun talking to you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Until next time. Bye. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. Make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.